All right, so today in the garage, I'm going to lower a 2011 458 Italia. Basically, the owner just wants to get rid of some of the wheel gap in which his vehicle has. He plans on keeping the factory wheels, so we're going to go with 1 inch and then see what that does. I think it's going to be perfect for this car with the factory wheels. Now, if he planned on purchasing like aftermarket wheels and tires, I would recommend him to wait for those to come in first and get those installed on the car. Then we can go ahead and drop it, just in case. We can fine tune the adjustment to the aftermarket wheels and tires, so there won't be any rubbing issues or any contact with the body in general. So since he's keeping the factory wheels, we can go ahead and lower today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so now we have the car transferred from the four posts over to the scissor lift. Went ahead and lifted it up using the factory jack points, which are right here. I have these blocks that just fit in there perfect. So you got one here. It's already cut out of this this tray, this under panel here, and same thing on the other side. And then here, I just put it right there where a lot of the frame comes together. There's a lot of welds in there. It's a really strong point in the chassis. So right there. And now I'm going to use a 22 mil socket and go ahead and take all these lug nuts off and remove all the wheels with electric impact. Let me do that now. All right, so I got the wheels and tires off on all four corners. And then what I did was I just did a couple steps at a time, and then I'll just come back. I won't come back, like do one thing, come back, one thing, come back. So I'll just do multiple steps. Let me turn this light on this camera. Hold on a second. All right, that's better. So the first thing I did was I removed this little disconnect the sensor from the A-arm right here. All right, so just use a flathead screwdriver. You can get a really wide one if you can, and just pry it as close to this ball cup on this side as possible. Don't do it in the center here, because this will just bend. Okay. Got that laying off to the side. The next thing I did was remove these plugs. There's one on each side over here, right there, to access the bolt that's in there. Then I release the sensor, not the sensor, but the wire going to the shock. There's that little spring clip. Just kind of push it in and it will release, and just push it up. It's going to hit on here, so it's not going to come off. I'd rather have it loose now, so if I'm taking the shock down, it'll just come off. And if I forget, then it'll come off on its own. All right. Let me see. And that's it so far on this rear part. So let's head to the front. All right, so we're at the front now. The first thing I did was remove this ball cup from this sensor here off the A-arm. Just pop that off. It was really easy. Then I needed to remove this sensor, but the fender liner was in the way. So I removed all the 4mm fasteners all the way around. This fender liner here, had to pull it up, push this way, and then pull out this corner and then slide it out. This one was a little bit more hard because it's wrapping around this spring here. So I kind of just pulled it from away from the spring here and kind of pulled it down some. Once I worked it down one of these coils, I was able to kind of push it this way, and then I got it to come out from this fender and just pull it all the way out. Okay, it was pretty easy. Then the next thing, I think that was it so far over here. So yeah, that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'll start taking some of the bolts loose. I'm going to try and get this out without having to remove this panel up here and coming out through the top. So I'll see if I can get it out through the bottom. I don't know if I can, but it'll save a little bit of work if I can do it that way. So let me get to work and I'll be back. Okay, so I got the shock out, and it's right there. I did forget to tell you about this clip that was in the fender liner. That one right there, I just used a screwdriver. Just kind of stuck it in one of those fins there and just turned it, and it turned right out. Super easy. And it goes right there on the bottom. Okay? And then I tried to get the shock out, but it's so tight in there. This A-arm is just no room to move it around, so I had to come out through the top. So I had to remove this panel here, and there was all kinds of, there's some Phillips fasteners in there. There's some, I think, 3mm hex drive fasteners, and there was 2 of them in the front that were right here that were T30 Torx fasteners. So I took those out, and then the panel when you pop, I had to remove this panel first, and then there's another panel right here, and then it goes all the way over to there, and then it was kind of stuck in here. Just kind of give it a good little yank, and it'll pop out and just slide out this way. Okay, and that was it. And then I was able to take the shock out. There was two 16 millimeter fasteners here. When you take those out, you ain't got to worry about it dropping down. Actually, the suspension's wanting to push it up, but you can actually kind of just pull it down a little bit. Pull the. I used an electric impact. Pulled those out, and then just let it come up slightly. Okay, and then the bottom down there, there was a 14 millimeter hex drive. I think it was. I can't remember what side it was on. I'll have to look. And then there was an 18 millimeter 6-point socket to get the other bolt. Here it is right here. Okay. And that was it for that. And yeah, so let's go to the back. All right, the back was really easy actually. Two 19 millimeter fasteners. And then pull that shock out, and then I already loosened it up, so that came right off there. And then you had a 19 millimeter on this side, a nut, and there's a big long bolt right there that was a 19 millimeter. And when you pull that out, like I said, you can take these two out there, and then when you zip this out, I use the impact, and then held that with a breaker bar on that side with a 19 millimeter socket. What I did was just, once this came off this nut, just kept, having the impact just on slowly, and it started pulling the bolt out on its own, and it got out part of the way, and then it stopped. So then I just had to lift the shock a little bit, take some of the tension off of it, and then pull the bolt out, okay? But remember, there's a washer that's there, so you might be able to grab the nut right here, or it could fall, but it's no big deal. But don't forget the washer. It'll be in there too, okay? And that is it. That's not too bad. So the other side, let me show you. I got a little issue with the front. All right, so now we're at the driver front, and the issue is now I didn't take this all the way out, but it's loose. I think I can get it out without pulling it all the way out, because you got to take the wiper arm off to take this off. What's going on now is it's hitting on the arm right here, the wiper arm. And I have no movement to get it out. I tried everything I could. So instead of removing, I'm not going to take this all apart up here. I'm just going to take these 4 bolts off the A-arm here. Just take those off real quick and slide the A-arm out, and then see if I can get it out that way. And I'll be back. All right, so I got the shock assembly out. It was really easy doing it this way or here. Just remove those 4 bolts. And then you're going to want to pull on this, right, once you remove them, and it's going to be kind of stuck. So what you got to do is kind of grab right here and kind of lift. You got to lift up some, and then once you get this level here, then it'll want to slide right out. Okay, and then just kind of spin it this way, and then the shock, I just lift this plastic up here, and then just pull it out the front. Okay, really easy. So I got all the shocks over now on the other side of the garage. So let's go ahead and go over there and take a look at them. All right, so all the shocks, basically, I already finished adjusting all the shocks except this last one, and I just want to show you real quick. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to need to break loose this collar right here, this nut that spins on this this shock shaft right here. It basically, this locks in this plate right here, which the spring sits on. It's like a spring perch. And then keeps it from turning and moving while you're driving, okay? But in order to break those loose, you got to have special wrenches like these. These are some super old wrenches that I had. And then they just kind of hook around like this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use another one to hold it. And I kind of set it on the ground, on the concrete, because it's really hard. And then have this resting on the ground and just kind of hold this in place. And then I kind of tap on this with a hammer and make sure you turn it the right way to loosen it, and then just knock it loose, okay? It can be kind of tough, but also what I did was I sprayed some penetrating oil on here to help to eat up any corrosion or anything that might come up between the this nut that's spinning right here, because it's been in the car, you know, with all the elements, you know, just pouring all over, all the water and the road debris and stuff like that. So now once I got it loose, you're not going to be able to spin this because of the spring tension on it, so you got to relieve that. So let me set these to the side here. Okay, so this is what this machine here is going to do. It makes just life really simple. So I already got the bottom of it in here. It's in here, and then you turn this crank to lock it in, okay? And it doesn't scar it all up. And then just swing these in like this, and you turn this handle to get it kind of close, and until this slides in here. Let me see here. Yeah, it's still hitting a little bit. Actually, I have to, there it goes. Okay, I thought I might have to readjust the spring. And then these right here are really short, so they won't, they're really thin too, so they won't go in and hit the shock body inside here and damage these threads. And just put that in like that. And then see, I can just do this with one hand. Okay, it's gonna wanna go over here, and then just, like I said, just do it with one hand while I'm doing the camera here. Oh, I can get this in the way here. 1 second. Switch hands. And there you go. See? It's released there. Now this is going to kind of kick to the side. So, but it's going to be okay. See how free that is now? Now you can spin it. Now what I look for is the mark that's on here. This is the main one I'm worried about here, but because this is how many times this spins around is going to determine how low the car goes, right? So this nut right here, I'm going to spin it up 17 turns. So every time this comes around, just count it. 17 turns equals 1 inch on this shaft, okay? Oh, sorry. 1, 2. You get the sense of it. And then once I spin this up 17 times, then you stop right here. Just match that mark up on there. And then I'm going to bring this one up to touch this one. I'll go ahead and count it as it goes up. Once I get to 17, it'll probably stop beforehand because it'll start touching this. So I'll kind of bring this a little bit past, and then this will hit. Once it touches this, it'll stop, and it should stop right on this line right here, okay? So let me go do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got this collar spun up 17 turns, all right? And if I take a tape measure, I'll leave this where it's at, and you'll see that, hopefully I can get it right there, it's 1 inch. It's right on the money. Hopefully I got the camera at the right angle, you see it. Okay, so that's 1 inch drop, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna spin this collar up 17 turns and get it to line up with this line here. And remember, this is gonna be a little bit past, because once it touches, this is gonna wanna stop, okay? So let me do that now. Okay, so I got this spun up 17 turns, and it actually, like I said, this was on the mark here before it touched. Once it touched this, it stopped here, so I just moved this a little bit past to let this come with that line right there. And then that's a full 17 turns, and it's actually 1 inch drop. So now what I'm gonna do is I'll take this out of here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll use a wrench to hold this, and then I'm gonna use another wrench to pull this nut right here this way to tighten up, okay, and lock this into place. So I'm gonna do that right now. All right, so I got it tightened down, just using my 2 spanners, and just took a hammer and just tapped that one spanner holding this ever so slightly to get it to line up here, and it's tightened up, okay? So it moved a little bit, but it's okay. It's not that bad. Pretty close. And that's gonna be it. So we're gonna take this now, and we're gonna install it in the car. So, and I had these marked, so I know. So that one's DF, that's driver's front. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in now, and I'll be back. All right, so I got the shock assembly installed. You might hear the fan blowing in the background. It is getting super hot here in the garage, so I had to turn that bad boy on. Yeah, so what I did was just from the top of here, lifted this up, slid it in, went ahead and took this A-arm here off, pulled it back, and then just swung this around, and then slid this down through the center there, And then when you go to put the shock in, make sure that the bottom of the shock, that hole is facing this way, so you can slide the bolt in, and then it'll line up and it'll go down, and then make sure that these two here are facing this way, okay? And if it's kind of twisted, you can just grab it with your hand and move it back. It's not that hard, okay? And then once you get the bottom of it in, lined up in the bottom of the, I'm going to show you here. It's right down there. Once you get it down in there, then just put that bolt in. It's that 14 millimeter. Let me show you over here. It goes in this way over here. That bolt there, slide it on in. You have to lift the shock up to get it to slide in. And then put a washer, and then that, it's I think it's an 18, let me see. Got 18 here. Yeah, 18 millimeter socket on that bolt, or that nut, right there, okay? And then go ahead and, I just leave that loose for right now, and then come up here, and then these two bolts here, you're gonna have to take the shock assembly. And what I had to do was end up put my weight on this and pushing down, and then get this to go, the shock assembly to slide down. There's like a little lip there, and then it'll slide down and it'll slide back this way and go under this part of the frame right here, okay? And then you're gonna have to constantly put pressure down here to get these bolts started. They're gonna start kind of like there's some resistance on there, but I didn't use electric impact to put those in. I just used a little ratchet, and then just slowly get them started until I felt comfortable they was going in straight, and then I come back with the impact and knock them in, okay? Go ahead and zip those in there, and then put on the 4 washers here, and then put these nuts on there, 16 millimeter. And then when you tighten these down, I don't like to run all the way down because it's a solid bar across. I like to kind of make sure they go down level, okay? And then we won't jam up, and then jack the threads up. So I'll run those down level and hit, and then just tighten those up, and same thing with that there too. Just bring them all down equally, and then tighten those down. And that's gonna be it so far. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave everything not installed, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put in all 4 shocks, and then put the wheels on, and we're gonna drop it down, and then see how it looks, okay? All right, so I have the car lowered down all the way to the ground here, and then I made sure the car was not resting on the lift, and it looks really, really good. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, that looks nice. Let's go look at the front real quick, and that looks really, really nice. Yep. So I already sent pictures to the owner, and he loves it. He thinks it's perfect the way it sits. So that's it. We don't need to make any more adjustments. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and lift the car up, and then put it back together. And then once I finish with that, we'll put it on the 4-post and get a good side shot of it and compare it to the, you'll be able to see what it looks like compared to the first picture when I started the video, okay? So let me get this up in the air and let's put it back together. All right, so I decided to go ahead and start putting the car together since the car is already sitting on the ground right now. And I just started from this top area here, so you can see I already attached this to the top of the shock. And then I went ahead and double checked these fasteners here, and they're nice and tight, and I went ahead and marked those, so I know I didn't miss those. I went ahead and connected this back here, just snap this back on. I just used a giant pair of like pliers and just kind of grabbed on the back side here. Set this on here and just very carefully just push this on, and it just popped right on, okay? And that's it for the top section here. So now I can put this panel back on. Like I said, there's just various different fasteners on here. The best way to probably do it is take your phone and either take pictures, or you can just videotape all the fasteners and put them in here. Somebody's been in this panel before, and a lot of the times that I've seen that when different people have been in certain areas, they don't tend to put the same fasteners back in the same areas, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but I don't want to show you and say, hey, this fastener goes here, or this Phillips goes here, when somebody else has kind of swapped them around a little bit. So just kind of take, video or pictures of all your fasteners and on your car if you're doing the same thing here. Okay. So this is good here. I kind of wiped it a little bit. I'm going to get a nice clean cloth, and then we'll go ahead and tidy it up a bit more in here. Then we'll put this panel in. We'll put these fasteners in, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we have the plastic panels installed. I have all 4 of them in on both sides. Okay, when you're putting this panel in, you have to make sure that there's a groove that's on the back of this panel. On the underside, it lines up with the groove that's going around this windshield. So you line that up, and then you're going to push this down. Once you slide this in this way, in this corner, then you're going to push it down all the way around and go back and forth until it snaps all the way completely flat with the windshield. Okay, don't use like a little anything to kind of knock it down, because you can hit the windshield and shatter it. All right, and you don't want to do that. Okay, once that's snapped into place, and I set all these panels in, I went ahead and started these fasteners here around the edge of this trunk liner here. And the reason why, because the rubber kind of covers it up a little bit. So I want to go ahead and get those in first. And because if you put these in after you put this rubber seal, if you're not careful, it'll pinch this rubber between the fastener and the plastic, and it'll either split it or just tear it. All right, so put those in first. Then you can put in this rubber seal. And anytime I, take this out or remove it or whatever, I always grab it from the bottom side here and pull up. Never on this rubber, because this is very soft and it'll tear. There's metal that's impregnated in the rubber here, and so that's why you can get a firm grip on that and pull it without damaging it. You can see somebody's already done it right here, pulled on it and ripped it. So I'm sure their owner knows that. If not, I'm going to tell him about that. Maybe we can get some kind of rubber cement and fix that. And then you just have those these are 3mm fasteners, as with these other ones here. And then just put them in. And then I use this tool here to kind of line up the holes. And especially these right here, these didn't line up at all, at least not for me on this one here. So what I did was, in order to line this one up, I just stuck this in the hole here, pulled it nice and straight, and it straightened this one up. Started this fastener here. In order to put this one in, I just took this one here, pulled it, started this one here, and this one pretty much lined up from there. Okay, put those in, and then basically just use hand tools and run them down. Okay, and that is it. So yeah, it turned out really good. Now I'm going to go ahead and lift it up, and then we'll finish putting the suspension together. I think I'll double check everything, because some of it I've already checked, but I'll double check all the bolts, make sure they're tightened, and then I'll mark them as I go along, and then I'll reinstall the fender liners, and I'll come back. All right, so now the front passenger side is complete. It's all put together. What I did first was put this fender liner, this part in first. I kind of got it in here. Started it off kind of low down here, this part here, and then I worked this corner, kind of pushed it in and hooked it in over here, and then shoved this corner down in first. Once I got it to go in here, then I just kind of rolled everything up and then pushed it up under the fender here, pulled it back this way up under here. This was a little tough, it's because it's really stiff, and just kind of pulled out and it just popped into place, and that was it. And this was really easy, just kind of push it in this way and then push it down in this way here. This one, it went in easier than it came out. And that's it. You got 4mm fasteners. They're all the same all the way through. So I hand started all those, and really there was no trouble. I mean, that was pretty much it. And then you have that little clip that's down here. That one there. Just use a little flathead screwdriver, stuck it inside of one of these ribs there, and just kind of turned it, and tightened right up. It's not a big deal. And then I went ahead and checked. Of course, I already tightened those bolts down. They're marked. And then I tightened this fastener down here, and it's marked. So we're good to go. And that is it for this side. And this is already put on. That is it. So what I'm going to do now is kind of wipe everything down, kind of clean it up a little bit, and then we'll install the wheel, and then I'll head on over to the back and finish that up. Okay, so I completed the back part of the car, and basically what I did was just check these, make sure they were tightened down. They were good. Went ahead and marked those. The fastener that runs to the bottom of the shock, I checked that. That's nice and tight. I can't mark it because it's inside the frame here. Then you have these two rubber plugs that snap on each side of the A-arm. And then I snapped on that sensor. Hold on, let me turn the light on. Okay, that's better. I snapped on this ball cup onto the A-arm. Now, it's questionable. You probably don't have to take that off. You can get away with not doing that, except for, on that driver's front, because you're removing the A-arm and you're doing a lot there. But even still, I do it because just in case. I've had a car before. It wasn't a Ferrari or anything like that. It was that had these sensors on it, and I was being super careful, and it just didn't seem like anything moved out of place, and it still got damaged. I don't know how, but it still got damaged. So just as from then on, I just started disconnecting all of them, and I've never had a problem since. So you can disconnect it. You can leave it hooked up if you want. I just disconnect it, so just to be safe. And that's it really for this. So all I gotta do is I'll go ahead and, like I said, I'll just wipe everything down really good. I kind of cleaned the shock up a little bit, but wipe everything down. I'll go through and visually inspect everything, see if everything looks okay, and then I'll reinstall the wheel. And then that's going to be it for the passenger side. And then I'll go do the driver's side, which is going to be basically the same as this side here, except for the A-arm where I had to, just got to tighten that down, double check that. But it's really the same thing. So once I finish that up and get all four wheels on, and I'll be back. All right, guys. Well, that's it. It's finished. And it looks really, really good. So I just got back from a test drive, and it drives really, really nice. I absolutely love this car. And let me get you a shot of the front for you. And let me show you the rear. Wow, that looks stunning. All right, guys, that's a wrap. So, yeah, that's how I lower the 458 Italia. All right, hope you enjoy the video. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.